Welcome to Ayurveda and Spirituality with your host, Alakananda Ma, a renowned Ayurvedic expert and a graduate of a top London medical school. She is the principal of Alundi Ayurveda Gurukula, a unique apprenticeship-style school in Boulder, Colorado. She is a spiritual mother, teacher, flower essence maker, and storyteller. Join us as we uncover the timeless principles of Ayurveda, discover practical tips for enhancing vitality, and explore the deeper dimensions of spirituality that intertwine with the ancient science of life.
Welcome, everyone. Welcome to Satsang. Satsang is a meeting of hearts, a gathering of friends to inquire into the truth. And today we are continuing our inquiry into our exploration of Prashna Upanishad. And we are in chapter 3 of Prashna Upanishad. We have just been looking last time, into the incredible verse 3 of Prashna Upanishad, in which it starts to describe the various divisions of prana. And we had wanted to know, is this really the first time that the divisions of prana got discussed? So we wrote to our dear friend and Vedanta scholar, Swami Paramananda, who's now residing in India. And he wrote back and said, yes, it's pretty well established that the Upanishads overall are older than either the Yoga Sutras or Charak Samhita. And Prashna is one of the oldest Upanishads. And there are discussions of the divisions of prana also in some of the still older Upanishads, but not in this much detail. So this is the first detailed description of the divisions of prana. The apana, the downward moving breath, is in the anus and loins. The prana itself is established in the eye, the ear, the mouth, the nostrils, and the samana, the equalizing breath, is in the middle. It makes it all summer. It makes equal all that is offered as food. And from it, the seven flames come to be. So we'll go on. So that goes on to the other divisions. Through one of them, the upward moving breath, udana, rises. Sorry, I missed one. The self, I'll go back, verse 6. The self is in the heart. The Atman, hridayesha atma. The Atman is in the heart. Here are the 101 nadis. Each of them has 100. Every one of those has 72,000 branches. Through those 72,000 branches moves Dhyana, the diffused breath, and through one of them moves Udana, the upward moving breath. It rises up. It leads us to a pure world through pure action, or to an evil one through evil, and through both, through a mix of good and bad, to the human world. Sun rises as the external breath, for it takes care of the breath of the eye, with the deity that is in the earth supporting the lower breath, and the space between as the central breath, and air is the diffused breath. So here we are going on to look at the relationship of the elements to the divisions of prana. With a snowstorm, I lost my thing where I can look at Shankara's commentary. It's not working. I hope they can actually hear. We're on Zoom. Yep. So the sun rises as the external breath. It takes care of the breath of the eye. The deity that is in the earth, so apana, has to do with the earth element. The deity that is in the earth supports the lower breath. The space between is the central breath. Air is the diffused breath. It's not quite the same exactly as how we have it now, but it is pretty interesting. Tejas is the up breath. So when one's heart has died down, one goes on to rebirth with faculties absorbed into mind. With whatever consciousness one has, one goes to breath. This breath, joined with heat, along with the self, leads one to the kind of world that is fitting. If one, knowing this, knows the breath, one's progeny do not cease. One becomes immortal. And then a verse is quoted that talks about this. Knowing the arising, the arriving, and the place, and the pervading in 5 ways of the breath in relation to the self, one attains immortality. Knowing, one attains immortality. Other translation, knowing the birth, the coming, the staying, and the 5-fold sovereignty of prana and how it stays in the body, one attains immortality. One attains immortality. So this is really an amazing chapter in that it is the first description of the 5-fold pranas coming about in answer to the question, from where is breath born? How does it arrive in the body? How does it divide itself up and become established? How does it support what is outside and what is concerned with oneself? So we are coming on now to chapter 4 and to the next question. And this is Gargya's question. Then Sauryanin Gargya asked him, Blessed One, what things in the person sleep? What things in it stay awake? Which god sees dreams, and whose happiness is it? And in what are all these established? So remember, the people who are asking the questions of Sage Pippalada are some of the greatest sages that we always study, that we honor in our Ayurvedic texts, whose names we like to recite. You have to be a great sage to think up these questions, because these are truly incredible questions of one who has deeply pondered. O Bhagavan, what in us sleeps, what in us wakes? What God sees dreams? Who is this bliss? And in which of them again are all of them fixed? So Shankara says, really everything comes from Brahman. Everything that is known to exist proceeds from the undecaying Brahman as sparks from the flaming fire. Everything is absorbed into Brahman. Are there really anything that exists that diverges from Brahman? So he's letting us know that these questions are still about the relative world. Verse 2, so Pipaliada is answering the question, Gargya, just as when the sun sets, its rays all become one in its circle of fire, and when it rises, they come out of it time after time. So everything becomes one in the highest God, the mind. So at that time, the time of being asleep, the person doesn't hear, doesn't see, doesn't smell, doesn't taste, doesn't touch, doesn't speak, doesn't feel pleasure, doesn't excrete, doesn't move around. No, people say he's asleep. When you're asleep, your everyday senses are not working. Only the fires of breath stay awake. The fires of prana alone wake in this city. The apana is the garpatya fire, the hearth fire. Vyana is the anvaryopachana fire. Prana is the avaniya fire taken from the garpatya fire. So in these ancient homes where fire was seen as so important, and they didn't have just have like a heating to turn on like we have. Fire is very important. In order to create your home, you have to establish the hearth fire. And we see this not only in the Vedic culture, you see this in the ancient pagan path of Rome, where you have your household gods and your hearth fire that is the center of everything. So when the senses, Shankara says, when the senses, the ear and the rest are gone to sleep in this city, in this body of 9 gates, the 5 winds, prana, and the rest, called fires because they're like fire, they keep watch. This apana is the Garpatya fire, the household fire. At the time that we do the Agnihotra, another fire named Ahavanya is obtained from the Garpatya. We didn't have a box of matches. You see, how you've been down in our temple. You see how many boxes of matches we always want to have. So we can light our samai and we can light our Agnihotra fire. Back in the day, wasn't just weird people like us who had an Agnihotra fire. Everybody had an Agnihotra fire, but you couldn't strike a match. So you had to go to your household fire with a stick with some ghee on it and light that stick and bring it to light your Agnihotra. So from the apana during sleep, prana, as it were, the ahavanya fire is obtained. But Vyana comes from the southern cavity of the heart. So it is called the southern fire from its connection with the south. So what remains awake, basically what we need to understand, that what remains awake when we sleep, our 5 pranas remain awake, just as the fires in our house continue while we are asleep. The central breath, the samana, is so called because it makes the 2 offerings. the in-breath and the out-breath. The samana, the equalizing breath, is equally distributing the offerings to the fire, which are breathing in and breathing out. Who makes this sacrifice? The mind. What is the fruit of the sacrifice? Udana, the upward moving breath. It is the upward moving breath that leads us every day to Brahman. If you've read any of the writings of the great Swami Nityananda, he talks a lot about the importance of the upward moving breath, because it's the upward moving breath that moves with the Kundalini and the only breath that moves upwards. So even when we're asleep, Shankara is pointing out, the elements are always performing the sacrifice. So we've often talked about this also in the context of our modern understanding of physiology. How amazing it is that you don't have to sit in the control tower and run your body. Because if you had to do that, you wouldn't be able to do anything else. You have no time to work, to play, to eat, to do anything. Because it'd be like, oh God, I've got to maintain the acid-base situation in the body. Now what am I supposed to do? I've got to breathe in now. Heart, you've got to beat your blood pressure. You talk about a burden. It's not a burden because it all gets taken care of by itself, and we can be happily and peacefully asleep, and everything in our body keeps on being regulated. So they're already back then being amazed about this fact that you can be peacefully asleep, and somebody, i.e., prana, in its fivefold divisions, keeps everything running smoothly. You don't have to worry about it. You're fast asleep. Everything keeps running smoothly. Being a pitta, that is my ultimate goal, is just to have things run smoothly. This is what happens every time you go to sleep. The pranas take care, they're running everything smoothly. In this state, we are in verse 5. The deva, the god, the mind, undergoes a variety of changes, sees again what it has seen, hears again whatever was heard, experiences again what it had experienced in different lands and directions, what was seen and not seen, heard and not heard, experienced and not experienced, existent and non-existent, it sees, being all, it sees. So the prana fires are there keeping watch, and the mind, which is free in the waking and dreaming conditions, says Shankara, merges in the condition of sleep every day. It's well known that living creatures pass through the waking, dreaming, and sleeping conditions by turn. So here the word sleeping refers to deep sleep, dreamless sleep. We have the waking state, the dream state, the deep sleep state. When we pass into the deep sleep state, we become all-knowing. But as Shankara says, it's really Atman that is enjoying all of this. Verse 6. When it is overpowered with light, the mind sees no dreams. Now there is bliss in this body. So we are in our waking state where we experience things. Then we can go into our dream state and rerun, seeing again what we've seen, hearing again what we've heard. experiencing things over. Even one of our Sufi teachers, Sheikh Mustafa Effendi, said, sometimes you'll experience something in a dream because it's your only chance that you'll get to experience it. That is actually pretty amazing. But then passing into the deep sleep state, which is a blissful, wonderful state. You feel so good when you wake up from having had a deep sleep because you've been in that bliss. Shankara says, when the mind becomes overpowered, so all the outlets of impressions are closed by the light, by the tejas, then the tendencies of the mind become absorbed in the heart along with the senses. When the mind, like the fire hidden in the wood, pervades the whole body in its form, as general knowledge, not special modifications, then he sleeps. At this time, the deva, the mind, doesn't dream because the light has closed the door of vision. Then, in this body, the bliss arises, which is knowledge unimpeded, pervading the whole body without distinction and clear. So that's the third state. But we become overpowered by tejas. Tejas like closes all of those doors of rerunning all those memories of the things we did, the things we might do, the things we wish we do. And the mind is like the fire hidden in the wood. That's a concept maybe nowadays in our days of light switches and buttons we don't always think about. But it's an important concept in the ancient world. When you put the wood on the lit tinder, it will burn. So the fire is hidden within the wood. The whole wood will burn. The fire is hidden in the log. So the mind is like the fire that is hidden in the log of wood, which is the body. It pervades the whole body. And there's just a general knowledge. When we're in deep sleep, there are no specific modifications, and we are in bliss. Good use, good boy, he says to the great sage Gargi. Heaven knows how old Pipilyada is because he's like looking on all these like some of the greatest evers as children, as kids who were very good for a whole year. And now he's answering their questions. Good man, a good boy. Just as the birds flock to the tree that is their home, everything flocks to the supreme self, to the supreme Atman. Sometimes in the certain points in the winter, the American robins have a conference or a convocation, and they have it on the upper loop where we walk, and there'll be a nice big tree that they'll pick. And everybody will get to gather together on that tree and they'll flutter around, they'll talk to each other. They've all the birds flutter to that same tree that is their home. So as birds go back to their tree, everything goes back to the supreme Atman. Shankara says, at this time, everything that depends on ignorance, desire, and karma become quiet. At this point, the Atman, the self, we've always been misunderstanding the self because we've been just seeing its modifications. But when we're in this deep sleep, It becomes one without a second, free from trouble, calm. So the illustration is, oh, good-looking youth, oh, handsome boy. The birds go to the tree intended for their abode. So everything is absorbed into the Atman. And he says, look, there's a verse about this. So verse 8, earth and the earth element, water and the water element, fire and the fire element, air and the air element, space and the element of space, the eye and that which is seen, the ear and that which is heard, smell and that which is smelled. We're talking about the tanmatras here. Taste and that which can be tasted, skin and that which can be touched, the hands and that which can be held, the loins and that which can be enjoyed, the anus and that which can be excreted, the feet and the path that can be taken, the mind and that which can be thought, the intelligence and that which can be understood, the ego and that with which it can identify, consciousness and that of which we are conscious. So each faculty and its object, light and that which can be illuminated, breath and that which can be supported. So all of these things, they are all actually the Supreme Self. The earth, the gross and its elements and so on, uh, all of this, all of this, it's all held within the self. This is the seer, the toucher, the hearer, the smeller, the taster, the thinker, the knower, the doer, the intelligent entity, Purusha. Purusha, the person, he becomes merged in the supreme, undecaying Atman. And Shankara says, the self which has entered here like the sun in the water, with the attributes of the enjoyer and the doer. It's the self, which is the seer, toucher, hearer, smeller, taster, thinker, knower, doer. Vijnan, the intelligent self, the knower. Vijnanatma, the nature of the knower. He is known by his nature. He is Purusha, and he enters into the supreme, undecaying Atman, the supporter of the universe, as the reflection of the sun in the water enters into the sun. Everything enters in. Good man, the one who knows, this is verse 10, the one who knows the shadowless, bodiless, bloodless, pure, imperishable, attains the supreme imperishable. Knowing all, he becomes all. Shankara says, owing to ignorance, he was not omniscient before, but by removing ignorance by knowledge, he becomes all. And then this ancient text likes to quote from still more ancient texts. Vijnanatma saha devascha sarvai rajnabhutani sampratishtanti atra tadaksharam vedyate vastu somya sa sarvijnana sarvamevavishyati. Who knows, O good-looking youth, the undecaying Atma, in whom the knowing self, with all the devas, the pranas, and the five elements are centered. He is the omniscient. He enters into all. The one who knows the imperishable, in which the self of knowledge, with all God's breath and beings too stand firm, all-knowing, has entered into all. So the answer to all of these complicated questions boils down to Atman, the self. If we've had a good night's sleep, we wake up happy and refreshed, because in that deep sleep state, although not yet fully conscious of it, we relaxed into self. And the Purusha, the one who has to look after all these modifications, all these elements, all these pranas, all these senses, all this everything, just rests back and merges into the self, just as the reflection of the sun in the water merging back into the sun.
Thank you for tuning in to Ayurveda and Spirituality with Alakananda Ma. We hope today's exploration has ignited a spark of curiosity and insight within you. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to leave us a 5-star review and share it with a friend. For more enlightening discussions and practical wisdom on Ayurveda and spirituality, subscribe and join our Facebook group, Alundi Ayurveda. To allow us to continue sharing valuable content, consider donating to Alundi Ashram. The links will be in the show notes. Until next time, may you walk the path of Ayurveda with grace and embrace the light of spiritual wisdom in your journey.
Trayambakam yajamahe sugandhim pushtivardanam urvarukamiva pandanam mrityormukshiyam